Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I didn't prepare anything for this. I just want you guys to know that. I got an email about a month ago saying, hey, do you want to come talk for 12 minutes? I'm like, yes, I can ramble for 12 minutes, it'll be fine. That was before hearing a girl with an accent who has a gangster rap soundtrack for me to fucking follow. I mean, disclosure, I apologize for any F-bombs that come this way, because this is just what I do. My name is Micah. I, along with my wife, business partner, and somewhere out here is my general manager, we own and operate 17-ish restaurants in this town. I moved here 10 years ago from Maui. I read an article in the New York Times saying Portland was the place where young people can come and like start into food and all that kind of stuff, and being raised incredibly poor and watching like the Frugal Gourmet on TV, like I just loved anything that wasn't spaghetti 5 nights a week. So I moved here, I came here, I was 25, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and went around and started applying everywhere at these nice restaurants, Clark Lewis and Blue Hour and all these places, and because I had no experience in this industry, I couldn't get a job. I ended up taking a job at the opening of the PF Chang's in the Pearl as a prep cook for $7.25 an hour. That was 10 years ago. Over the time, I don't know how I climbed my way up to the top of the ladder, but it was definitely through lessons that I learned as a kid. So I think the first lesson that I would talk to you guys about is how I got this mentality. I have a 10th grade education. I never went back for a GED. I don't have any secondary schooling. Prior to the restaurant game, I was a makeup artist. I did that for about 8 years. I did, makeup for random photo shoots and stuff like that, push cosmetics. But when I was a kid, I would go up to my dad and be like, Dad, can I have like $1 to go to the store? And he would be like, don't come to me and ask me for money, come to me and ask me what you can do for money and to give me the amount, and then I would test that. So Dad, what can I do for $1? And he'd say, go take the trash out and wash the dog or something like that. One time, being raised in a large family, 9 older sisters and some of them living at home with kids, I oftentimes had my cousins living with me. And I would go to my dad. I remember when my dad, one winter, Utah had fierce winters, and Dad, what can I do for $10? And he said, you can go shovel the snow in the driveway, and I'll give you $10. And I was like, okay. And then I went and found my cousin, and I was like, I will give you $3 to go shovel the snow. And then I was outside. I was outside, sitting on the patio, watching my cousin do all of the work. I was just sitting down. My mom comes outside. What are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be helping him? And I said, no. She thumps me on the head, goes gets my dad. My dad comes out, and he actually said to me, he said to me, that's not a bad thing what you did. You should probably just be a little more generous with your offering, because I showed him the deal. And that was a 70% profit margin on what I did. So lesson number 1 is definitely going to fall on the heels of what McElroy said, which was inspiring people to do things for you. And I think the biggest icon that teaches that lesson was Steve Jobs. He put the latest entry into the DCM portfolio of personality disorders or traits was distorted reality syndrome. And that was the ability to get those around you to, one, not only believe in a product or something like that, but to help you create it. Because oftentimes I get all of the credit for everything that happens with my companies, whether it's, way back in the beginning, Yakuza was my first restaurant, Beast was my second, DOC was my third. I opened up Fats. That's the only one of the restaurants that I've had to close. After that, I had Little Big Burger, which has 8 locations now, 2 Bluestar Donuts, Boxer Sushi, Boxer Ramen, and then we are now launching this Son of a Biscuit. It's a fried chicken concept, similar to Popeyes. They're all the rage on the southeast coast and then the south, but we've got Popeyes up here. That's about it as far as like fast casual fried chicken goes. But I've gotten all these. I build it first and then figure out how to cook the food I'm putting in it. like we take with Boxeram that opened up a year ago, rave reviews across the board. My partners and I built that restaurant before even trying to cook one bowl of ramen. And we opened up like trying to figure out how to do it, but we didn't open the doors until we mastered it. But I had surrounded myself with people that knew how to do certain functions. So like I said, I get all the credit for it. Sometimes that can also cause issues with your partners and stuff like that, but I wouldn't be here on this stage or even enjoying the life that I have if it weren't for the people around me. So yes, it's about inspiring those around you, but two, it's also about spreading that wealth or that pride of ownership or the credit or whatever it is that you can get. I've got 150 employees in this town, and I know 20 of them, but the gentleman that runs my businesses and my partner, they know all of them, and not only do they know all of them, they know things about their lives. They're able to build these relationships, and I don't. I'm too busy with my ADHD running around trying to open up and take over Portland with, fat, salt, and sugar. So that's lesson one, and that's it's not trying to steal McElroy's thunder, but that it is on that. Yeah, there's a commonality between many entrepreneurs, and she touched on some very major points, and that was one of them. The second lesson that I learned, and it was the most humbling moment in my life, was the difference between fame and fortune. The first 4 restaurants I opened up in this town are 3 blocks away from here. 30th and Killingsworth, like I said, I opened up Yakuza, Beast, DOC, and Fats. I owned that block. All the restaurants were within 5 or 6 feet of each other, and that's when I came onto the scene. That's when people started writing about me. That's when I was getting into magazines. I was in the New York Times, but when I was 26, and I had all this fame, and I had packed restaurants. But at the end of the day, it was an illusion. I didn't have the ability to always pay my employees on time, or to pay myself, or to do anything. But to the customer base, they thought they thought I was successful. And there's a huge difference between fame and fortune. And I think the difference being is when I stopped trying to control everything in my world, I was able to realize that other people's influences and other people's abilities would help contribute to my growth personally and my growth professionally and financially. So after those 4 restaurants, the economy tanked. And what happened was all these people, we didn't really cater to the audience that was around us in Northeast. We were pulling everybody from the West Hills to come over to these fancy restaurants in what was the ghetto at the time. And we saw huge sales number losses, and we ended up, I freaked out, and my wife and I were like, let's go open up something closer to them. Let's go to the Pearl District. And at the time, I had just came off the heels of having Best Burger in Portland 2 years in a row, multiple publications. It was ironic because it was at a sushi bar that I got known for a fucking burger. But we took that, we reimagined it together, her and I both, and we started to look at, and see, it wasn't until I had this other person to bounce ideas off of that we were able to create something that I couldn't have created, because at the time I had ideals. I wanted to pick and choose my customer base. I wanted the foodies. I didn't want the bridge and tunnel crowd. I wanted the foodies, and then come to find out there's 1,000 of them in this town, but there's 100,000 people that will buy a good burger or a good product and not have that foodie name tag. But when we got together, she was bringing in, all of these other outside ideas because she was in design school and she had a life outside of here. I've got 3 minutes. Shit, I just got the 3-minute card. Okay, so anyways, I was able to harness that relationship and we birthed Little Big Burger. And that was an idea. Little Big Burger was an idea. It was not an ideal. It was not the conviction that I suffered from, which was trying to control every aspect of it. I brought someone else in. We created something, and Little Big Burger has blown up. I mean, we just opened up our 8th location in Alberta. We're a debt-free company. We don't owe anybody anything, not 1 penny to a bank, no leases on equipment, nothing like that. We're straight cash flow, which is very surreal to me. So that's fame versus fortune. When you can lose control and bring other people in, you can start to have the fortune as well. It opened me up to a bigger audience, and that was not by my doing. That was by my partners and the people that had surrounded us. That was that. Third lesson. This is why I should have prepared something. Third lesson in 3 minutes. Audience, customer base. I got asked to speak at Lincoln High School 2 months ago to the graduating business class. I responded to the principal's email with, I don't have a high school diploma. I don't think you want me talking to your kids. I get up on stage, and I just had to get that out of the way first. I told these kids, I'm like, the last time I was in school, and I was in a school, and my heart was like racing more than it is now. I was in a school looking at all these little kids, well, seniors, and I was like, I was giving my teacher a bird in 10th grade, walking out, telling him to F off, you know, and then, so they're sitting, I'm like, I'm not trying to, so some teachers are gasping and the other teachers are just like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it's the audience, the customer base. What happened was in those ideals, I saw a customer base that I wanted to have. But what I found out was that the base that has built the fortune that we are now able to build on, it was an audience I was unaware of, and one that I had actually even loathed. I loathed the youth with their Facebooks and all this kind of stuff because I didn't have that growing up. I mean, it literally was cold for Christmas. But as I looked out there, as the lines that were forming in these tweetering and the social media and all this kind of stuff, it was a younger influence base, and these older people, the parents and the teachers, they lived vicariously through the youth. And I shunned that because they couldn't drink alcohol and they didn't have expense accounts. But you know what they had? They had $5 in their pockets. And they lined up in droves. And that's where the wealth of our company came from. It was connecting with the youth, and people do that. Like, news channels follow young kids that have, like, in a predatory sense, that have, like, you know, 10,000 followers on Facebook. You'll find, like, Channel 4 News following them, so they can find out what's hip on the scene. But that was that. And one of the kids asked me in the Q&A, they said, who do you attribute to this success? And I'm like, to be honest with you, it's a collateral success. It's you guys. You guys deserve that credit. I'm a millionaire because of you, and I loathed you 6 months ago. So those are my 3 lessons. I hope I got something across.